Hey everybody, welcome back to the TONGA Tour of North Georgia Omnium recap. Today we're covering day 2. It's a road race, a hill stage, so it's going to be a lot of fun. Let's jump into the stats. Riding along with myself, FTP is 283, coming in at 3.9 watts per kg at a weight of 160. Today's stage took 2 hours and 26 minutes at a distance of 57 miles, average speed 23.6, normalized power 265, average power 184. Between the two, normalized and average power, pretty big watt discrepancy. That is because we've got these 3 kickers, and as you can tell, we're already getting rowdy. Okay, so one thing I want to clarify real quick is to look up at the track map on the right while we're putting down power, is we're coming up the last steep, toughest, longest climb of the course, okay? So when you look down at the gradient map, it's a little confusing because of how I had to lay the data out and get the video going. So we're coming up to the start-finish line. We are on the second lap of, I believe, 7 total laps. And the goal today is Nick, right here in front of me on my left, is to get him in the best position possible to contend for some Omnium points and to contend for a finish, a great finish. And with a couple attacks going early on this like slight false flat before we hit the big kicker, it starts to get strung out in single file a little bit. So my goal is to really just like make sure I'm on someone's wheel, watch for gaps in front of me. These are the leaders right here, just 4 riders. I'm behind Jesse with True Blood for 5th, and I'm in 6th. And it goes slightly downhill right now, so you get a slight bit of rest before it starts gradually ramping up, and then it's gonna, you tell from the track map, it's gonna kick up really hard. I am still babying my hamstring from a couple days before that, so I'm trying to be conservative on all these attacks and all these hills. I definitely don't want to injure myself, and I'm unsure kind of how much power I can put down. As you guys saw, I can at least do 700, and so I'm feeling pretty good, but I'm doing all this stuff seated as much as I can so I don't irritate my tendon or my knee. Okay, Nick is trying to make a move right here on the outside. There's one rider in front of him that's pretty far up the road. It is a Piedmont rider, and they're going for Omnium points. This is the second lap. From the start, they went ahead and started throwing points at us, so the race started really dynamic coming into this second lap right here, or finishing up the second lap. So I know that he's got points up the road, so I'm really just trying to like finish out this climb, get across the start-finish line, and be, pretty comfortable. I'm trying not to go too deep. Check the rear cam. We have a pretty good gap of us, about 6 riders. And right here, we probably should have stepped on it and started like ramping up the power on this downhill to make the peloton chase us. We did not do that, and that was kind of, I feel like, a pretty crucial mistake on that, and we let some of these guys like get a rest, but it's okay. This it was slightly windy on the course, and there was just, the downhills were just so big that I didn't feel like I had enough juice to keep the speed up. So we'll push ahead right here. Okay, to keep it straight on the map is, if you look at the course map right now, you'll see that we're almost halfway through the course, and if you look down at the gradient map, we are technically on the second climb, or the second kicker of the course. So we're skipping ahead right here. I've been recovering. Nick's been recovering. He's in the rear cam right there. We have another teammate, Logan, in the rear cam. We've been really just kind of surfing wheels, trying to get out of the wind and make sure we're fresh for this next final climb coming up. These hills are punchy, guys. They'll take some stuff out of you. If there's a hard attack on there, they're really punishing. So we wanted to ride really smart and kind of conserve our energy early on the best we could. We're fueling. It's a 2.5 hour ride. any chance we can to kind of set in wheels. It's really fairly easy to move up and navigate the field with such a small group. So if you see something go up the road, you have time to kind of react to it. Speaking of that, at this point right now, we have one rider rolling off the front. It's really hard to see through the riders, but he's rolling off the front right now to kind of throw out a flyer. We weren't too intimidated by this off the start, because we knew right after this little kicker that there was going to be another downhill. And with just a substantial group that we had, we knew we were going to have enough speed and momentum to kind of reel him back in, and we were just going to kind of let him burn up and use up some of his watts. But as I say that, pink rider right here on the far right in the front of the screen, he goes on a flyer as well. So he's going to bridge up to that guy. Now we have two guys up the road as we prepare to take this right-hander as we finish up this second climb of the course. All right, the teams to look out for is this green team on my left. They have 3 riders. You can see the rest of their team in the rear cam. And then you have the Nashville local guys in the orange and black right in front of Bryce. So team presence, nothing crazy. We have 4 guys today. Some other guys have 3 and 2. The rest of them are solo riders. So it's a good time, and we felt really confident in this race. Turns out we were wrong to have that confidence. We do not get a lot of the hill climbs in as we should, and lesson learned. We're going to work on that in the future, and then in the off season. All right, skipping ahead a few minutes later, we're finishing up lap 3, and we're coming up to the final kicker in the final climb before the start finish line. We have caught the 2 flyers that are up the road with those long downhills in the flat sections, but as we have done that, small little attacks and little punchy things have started to go up and like single file the group. So we're on this like kind of false flat section right here, and you can see there's already gaps of like 4 to 5 seconds of 2 to 3 riders up the road, and we're threatened by this. These guys are kind of, they're going 21, 22 miles an hour, and unfortunately it's not fast enough, so Bryce is going to get up here. He's just slowly going to ramp it up a little bit, keep it right at 22. Bryce is going to flick me through, and I'm going to realize, like, oh man, like this gap's way too big. There's 5 guys up the road right here that you can see, and I'm like, man, that's just too many guys. We start to get a good downhill right here, so I try to recover just a little bit. I should have probably punched it right here and helped Nick launch up to these guys, because those guys, since they're off the front by 5 seconds, they're kind of resting and having the ability to recover a little bit before this final climb, and they're going to kind of rest up to throw in another attack. And right here, we're filing in single file. We should have gone around this Mac rider in the yellow, but we didn't. So we kind of lose a lot of momentum by not going around him, and it's just an advantage of these guys that are up the road now. In hindsight, like watching the footage, that is a huge mistake that we made by like letting them keep their momentum. But you can tell in the rear cam, the group is kind of like re-racking itself in a sense. And we're kind of, it's early on, so people are feeling good, and so the attacks are like pretty hard, or they feel hard. And I'm just trying to manage everything. Off that quick little surge, you can see I've already got a gap in the rear cam. We're slowly trying to ramp it up right here. And now we're with like kind of the core group of guys that we were raced with all day yesterday. The dudes that were up in the front kind of contesting for preem points and then contesting for the finish as well. So I know that we're in the right group of riders, but we've kind of already let these guys that are past the start finish line right now get like a 10-second gap on us. And it might not seem like much, especially with this large downhill that's coming up, but dude, those guys threw in a huge attack, and they smashed it on this downhill to start creating a large gap, and they're actually going to stay away. They're actually going to get this thing opened up, and we're about to skip ahead to see how we kind of like try and react to that. So we get reabsorbed coming across the start finish line. We've made it down the large downhill, as you can tell. and we're occasionally getting updates from the moto. He's like telling us like the split times and everything like that. And right now they're right around like 15 to 20 seconds in front of us. So like we can see them in the distance when the roads like flatten out and you get open roads. Like we can see them up there when we turn, we can see them. But we have a freaking huge attack right here up this first climb of the course. And it's just a little punchy, like little 8-9% climb. And then, man, it stings really bad. And it gets the race pretty strung out. But guys knew that they were going to kind of counter right there and in hopes to kind of get some more separation. But it hurt. We were really trying to play this course kind of safe in not, putting our nose out into the wind too early on. But now our back is kind of against the wall, and we have to kind of get some type of rotation going and speed up the group, get some type of pace line running so we can reel in these. I believe there's 3 guys up the road right now. All right, jumping ahead just a couple minutes later. This is the first time that Newtype, our guys, try and like charge to the front and help and like motivate to get a rotation going. As you can see, we have this green team who has the numbers, and then Nashville locals up there as well. So it's really kind of the teams with additional riders are up the front trying to help set tempo and get speed going. But we're finally ramping it up to 30 miles an hour. Anything below 30 miles an hour, I don't think is gonna get it done. And so I'm slowly kind of moving up a little bit, kind of talking to guys like, hey, like, are you guys good with kind of starting a pace line? And I get a good response. The guys are like, yeah, let's do it. The age-old thing of like getting too excited is like the perfect scenario where this happens a couple times where we're trying to get a rotation started. Is like guys just get too excited and their pulls are just way too hard. I just spiked up to 400, almost 500 watts right here, trying to come around this guy, and I'm like, it's unnecessary. So I kind of like let him know real quick, is, hey man, like you're blowing it up a little bit, it's too fast. Let's dial it back a little bit, and he understands. And so we reset a little bit. Got this young rider coming up on my right. And then we start kind of getting some stuff going a little bit right here. But then we have this guy in the orange, or in the red in the rear cam. He kind of just sets up and disrupts that whole charge. And what do? I just kind of spike just a little bit and then pull off to the left and see if he comes through. Finally comes through, closes that gap down. So just those little disruptions like that in a rotation can really just slow you down, while the leaders up the road, they're working in perfect sync. Their rotations are fluid. They're keeping a solid like 30 miles an hour pace, where we're back here, yo-yoing and leaving gaps opening up, and not everyone's participating. But hey, that is racing, and that's why once you get a breakaway and you can get something going well, that's why you can get up the road and get a gap on a group like that, is because everyone else is back in the peloton, fiddle farting. So we're pushing ahead a couple more minutes, and this is the second main time that we tried to get a rotation going and try to get some teams going. So we just came out of that right-hander, and I'm immediately to the front at 30 miles an hour, trying to set the tone for the speed and like make it known that, hey guys, we're here to work. We have 3 guys on the front right now. We're willing to start a rotation. Like, hopefully that like motivates them to start working as well. I've kind of learned my lesson from like trying to like, hey, like work together, we got stuff to do, like kind of yelling at the peloton. I used to do that like when I was like a 4 and a 5 on some crits and stuff, and now with the being in a 3 or in like a little bit more competitive field, I've kind of stopped like chirping at the group and just going up and like showing that I'm willing to rotate. But yeah, we start rotating right here, and you can see it just kind of just gets congested and clogged up, and it does need time. It does take time for the group to kind of get sorted out on like where they want to be in the rotation and like who does want to participate. But it's just not fast enough. Even though we're going 36 miles an hour here, but we're on a big downhill. And here's another example of like I'm having to do freaking 500, 600 watts to come around this guy at 38 miles an hour. That is just too fast. And it's not smooth enough. And this is where like I encourage anybody that's willing to like wanting to get in a break is practice with your teammates, practice with your group rider guys, and like work on those rotations and those pace lines and working on being smooth when you change out your pulls. That's really going to help transition to like a race time scenario. We rip it through this right-hander. Those guys have like 25 seconds on us now. We gained no time. They actually extended the gap on us. So I immediately put down the power. We are coming in the false flat, this little flat section right before the final kicker. But guys, this is kind of the last little bit of action. We try to get the group rotated and going like 2 more times on lap 4 and I believe it was 6. But the gap from the moto, he kept telling us, just kept getting bigger and bigger. And so finally, like, we just gave up. All the preem points were gone for the day. So we just started protecting Nick and letting him recover a little bit as much as he wanted to and getting ready for the finish line. So appreciate you guys for watching. That is all the footage we've got. Don't have the finish line. Definitely stay tuned for the next race footage we have. It's the 3rd and final day of Tonga. It's the crit. That crit is super dynamic. Appreciate y'all watching. Later.